Welcome back to another innovation review. Today, we're going to be checking out the GoEagle from GoPowerBikes. And now, let's jump into the review. First, let's talk about the looks. Visually, the GoEagle fits right in with the rest of the offerings from GoPowerBike. They have got this black, all black sort of vibe about it, plus they've got the little bit of green here with the GoEagle, a little bit of branding there. Now this is different than most of the bikes they offer. This one is designed specifically for commuting and food delivery. So we've got this integrated rack with a couple of nice little attachment points, allowing you to customize what you're going to be carrying for whatever you're doing, whether it's, delivering sandwiches or going back and forth between work. The bike itself does have somewhat of an aggressive frame to it. It looks like if we didn't have that rack and maybe the battery was a little bit smaller, this is something we could probably take off-roading, just sort of has that vibe to it. But you throw the big battery on there and the rack in the back, and then you kind of understand that this is designed for the urban environment primarily. I think they did a really good job of making this bike look like a cohesive unit, from the fenders to the semi-integrated battery. This bike really does look like it's going to be good for what they designed it for, so that's awesome. Next, let's talk about the motor. The motor we have here is a 750-watt rear hub motor. Now this one looks a little bit different than some of the ones we've tested in the past. This is more of a pancake-style rear hub motor, so if you were looking at the bike from the profile, you could see the motor a little bit more, so you're probably going to get more people noticing this is an e-bike right off the bat. The 750 watts here does give us enough power to go around, and I even took it off, doing a little bit of off-roading with it, and I never felt like it was lacking power, at least for the tests that I was doing with it. Now, having the extra power here is nice, even though this isn't a super fast e-bike. If you are going to be throwing a lot of weight on the back, say, some stuff you're taking to work, or you got 30 pizzas you're trying to deliver, I don't know if you could fit 30 pizzas on a bike. That might not be safe. But let's say you got, some weight here in the back. Having that extra power is going to be a nice addition to have on this bike. Next, let's talk about the battery. So the battery we got here is this 48-volt, 10.4 amp-hour, 500-watt-hour battery. Now, this is a little bit on the smaller side. We usually see things anywhere between the high 600s to mid 700s. I think that's pretty much the median for most of the bikes that we have tested here in the past. So this isn't something you're going to be doing long commutes on, but thinking if you were in the city and kind of going with that food delivery idea. But if we're thinking about that food delivery scenario, that is probably plenty of miles for a regular day of delivering, depending on, how far these houses are away from your business location. We do have a battery readout here on the top, which is always nice to have. That way, if you are charging it or it's off the bike, you can just kind of get a quick read on how much juice is in here. One of the things I do like about this battery setup is right here on the frame where it's going, they do have a little bit of a cutout here. Originally, I saw the battery and it looked a little bit smaller than some of the other batteries, and especially the other batteries that came on the other GoPowerBikes, but it's actually the same size. So having that extra cutout here, even though it's not, a fully integrated battery into this frame, does give the appearance of a smaller battery. The battery takes about 4 to 6 hours to get a full charge on it, and once you got it fully charged, you should be able to get anywhere between 18 to 36 miles. Now again, that is not a super long distance commuter bike range, but if your commute is fairly short, then that would kind of fit in that scenario pretty well. Next, let's talk about the brakes. The brakes we have here are a Tektro mechanical disc brakes. One of the nice things here up on the handles, we have got this integrated bell. We also have motor cutoff inhibitors. So both of those things are excellent safety features to have. There are a lot of bikes that come with a small little bell, and I found that the ones that are integrated here on the Tektro handles are pretty much better than all of the bells that I've been sent on other e-bikes. So as far as bells go, this is a nice addition. It's a pretty decent bell. And having those motor cutoff inhibitors is another safety feature. So if you're going, you're holding down the throttle, but you go to brake, but maybe you're still holding down the throttle for some reason, when you pull on the brakes, that is going to cut the power to the motor and just going to allow you to stop a little bit better, more efficiently, and it's a nice safety feature to have. And we've got 180 millimeter discs both on the front and the rear. And as I mentioned, these are mechanical as opposed to hydraulics. And since we're not going to be going too fast, really only hitting that 19, 20 miles per hour on this bike, I think that the mechanical disc brakes probably the way to go. Next, let's talk about the gears. So the shifter up here on the right-hand side is this Shimano SIS index shifter. As you guys know, I'm a fan of this. Super easy to use, very intuitive. And we have got 6 gears on here. Heading to the back, we've got the Shimano turning derailleur. And up here attached to those Wellgo aluminum pedals, we've got 170 millimeter cranks and a 42-tooth chainring. As far as pedaling the bike around in those different gears from 1 to 6, everything felt like it was tuned pretty well. I didn't find any issues only having the 6 gears here. Next, let's talk about the extras. The GoEagle does have quite a few extras. Starting up here, we have got this integrated front light, which is nice that it's integrated into the battery. We can turn it on and off from the control panel up here. We don't got to carry around any extra weird batteries. And the same thing is true for the rear light back here in the back. The rear light here is also integrated into the battery. Again, don't need any sort of weird batteries. And it also reacts to the brakes. When we pull on the brakes, it will flash, letting people know we're stopping. An excellent safety feature to have here for sure. The other extras we have are fenders, both on the front and the rear. I guess it would be strange if we only had one fender. And then we've got the integrated rear rack with a couple different mounting points. We've also got up here in the front some mounting points to mount a front basket or a front rack, depending on what you need this bike to do. Next, let's talk about the essentials. The GoEagle ships with all of the tools you need to put it together, plus it comes with an instruction manual and the charger. As far as assembling this bike, it was fairly easy to put together. Nothing too wild, nothing out of the ordinary when it comes to assembling an e-bike. Next, let's talk about the suspension. The GoEagle comes with front fork suspension, and the fork that we have up here fits nicely into the design of the bike. It comes with 80 millimeters of travel, which is enough to cushion a ride, but not something where you'd want to be taking this off jumps. Not really what the bike is designed for, but just a caveat as far as 80 millimeters of front fork suspension, not really a whole lot when it comes to getting air on certain bikes. Now, we don't have anything fancy here as far as preload or lockout adjustments, but it does add a good suspension feel to the ride. The other part of suspension we like to talk about are the tires. So right here we've got these 26 by 2.3 inch tires. They are puncture resistant and they've got a sidewall reflective stripe. So as far as nighttime safety goes, an excellent feature to see here. I also like how the tires are a little bit more aggressive. They're not just a straight city tire. So if we're out in the elements and we've got to get some extra grip, I feel like this is going to perform a little bit better than some of the slick city tires that we've seen. As far as PSI goes, there's not a range on these, but it just says it recommends you fill them up to about 50 PSI. So that's what we did, and I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with keeping them right about 50. The other part of suspension we like to talk about is the butt suspension. So the saddle we have here is this Fortune mid-size saddle. It was fairly comfortable, a little bit on the harder side when we're looking between, plush and soft versus rock hard, a little bit leaning more towards the hard side, which is fine. And I found for me, it was a little bit on the small side, so it didn't match up with my sit bones just right. And as you guys know, there's not a saddle that's better or worse. It's really just about matching up that saddle and that width to your seat bones and riding style. Next, let's talk about the controls. The GoEagle utilizes the SW900, which is a pretty common screen, so if you know your way around one of those, this is going to be pretty much the exact same. One of the additions we do have here is it does have USB charging, which is nice. Not all of those particular screens have USB charging, so if you need to charge up your phone or a GPS unit, you can do that right here with the screen. We've got a very simple 3-button layout over here on the left-hand side. We've got the mode button, which is going to turn the bike on and off and cycle through some of those settings it can show us. And we've also got a up arrow to change our levels of pedal assist and a down arrow to lower our levels of pedal assist. Once you get the bike on and you want to cycle through some of those things that the screen can show you, it's going to show you your pedal assist level, your battery, speed, odometer, and the watts that you're pulling. Now, being able to see how much watts you're pulling is a nice addition. Usually there's just a blank screen down there and it'll tell you, if there are any errors, which is nice to know. However, it's cool that we can see the watts that we're pulling so we can find out how efficiently we're operating. Next, let's talk about who this bike might be for. When we're looking at this bike and trying to figure out who this is designed for, like we'd mentioned, this is primarily designed for somebody who is looking for a short distance commuter bike or somebody who is delivering food and they want something that they can customize to carry the different loads depending on what sort of food you're delivering. And I think a lot of the things that they did here on this bike make sense for that, with the addition of being able to put a front basket on here or going to the integrated rear rack with a couple of different attachment points. So we can customize exactly what we need to carry here. As far as the fit of this bike, there are a few measurements that I will point out that'll hopefully point you in the right direction. So the reach we have here is 20.25 inches. Not too bad, a little bit on the medium to taller side, but nothing too crazy. And the standover height. Now the standover height here is 30.5 inches, which is a little bit on the higher side. If I was somebody who was, say, carrying around a bunch of pizzas, which talking about this pizza thing is kind of making me hungry. If I was somebody who is carrying around the pizzas, I would want to be able to hop off the bike and put both of my feet flat on the ground and not have to tilt the bike one way or the other. So having that 30.5 inch standover height does limit this in that, particular use case to somebody a little bit on the taller side. Now I'm about 5'10", 5'11", so right around that 5'9" mark. You probably wouldn't be able to do that without tilting the bike a little bit. And that might not necessarily be a huge deal. You might not need to keep the bike straight up and down. However, that one scenario, I'm thinking you'd probably want somebody who's a little bit taller on this bike to be able to keep the bike straight up and down. Some of the other measurements we have here are a 16.75 inch seat tube. We've got a 29 inch minimum saddle height, a 36 inch maximum saddle height, 25.5 inch width here at the handlebars, a 46 inch wheelbase, and a 74 inch length overall. Now, we're not going to go in depth on how to measure yourself for a bike to see if this is the right fit here. There are a ton of other videos on YouTube that teach you what you need to measure and how that relates to a bike, but hopefully highlighting some of those measurements can help you decide if this bike is right for you or not. Next, we're going to show a few clips from the ride test, but if you want to watch that full, mostly unedited ride test, you can check that link out right here. The in-depth review that you've been watching is really more geared towards the specifications and the use case of the bike, and the ride test is more about the experience of riding the bike. And without further ado, let's send it to the ride test. Welcome back to another innovation ride test. Today we are checking out the GoEagle from GoPowerBike. Let's go ahead and turn her on and see how she rides. So we've got in pedal assist level 1 right now. Just doing a little riding. Gets up to about that 7-8 miles per hour. And even though this has a more powerful motor, it is only going up to that top speed of 20 miles per hour. So it definitely feels like it could go faster. It's got a 48 volt battery, 750 watt motor, so we should be able to get some higher speeds out of it. But keeping it at that class 2 makes it a little bit more accessible to other places that are a little bit tougher on class 3 e-bikes. Go ahead and hit on these brakes. Stop really well. We do have the motor inhibitors on these brakes as well, so as soon as you're touching on the brakes, even if I'm pedaling, it's going to kill the power going to the motor. Just a nice little safety feature there. And let's finally hit it into pedal assist level 5. Let's get up into 6th gear. Very comfortable cruising speed, honestly. We don't get any ghost pedaling or anything like that. It is geared really well for that 20 mile per hour with those 6 gears. So we're going here at pedal assist 5, hitting that top speed at 20 miles per hour fairly quickly. It's a nice, easy ramp up. And if I'm thinking about, who this bike was designed for, either people who are, delivering food, or, you've got cargo in the back, it is nice that you do have a little bit less get up and go here for this particular use case. The other thing that I like about here is it is going to show us our wattage that we're pulling. So right now we're pulling about between 400 and 500, and that's cool, just so we know, exactly how efficient our battery and the whole operating procedure here is going. I also like that when we have pedal assist turned off, it's not going to allow us to bump that throttle, which is nice, and then it's also still going to tell us how fast we're going, which is another excellent thing. So even if we're going up, we're shifting 2nd to 3rd. Nice easy shift there. 3rd to 4th, easy shift. 4th to 5th. And 5th to 6th. A little bit of a delay there between 5th to 6th. But honestly, everything was still pretty smooth. When you go between pedal assist and to throttle, there's no There's no delay between the power delivery there, which is nice. The ride itself is fairly smooth. We've only got suspension up here in the front. We've got that front fork suspension, and it does give us some nice, really some nice riding quality there. And normally we will not be taking this bike off-road. This is designed for something a little bit more urban, but we do have some fairly aggressive tires on here. And the tires that come on the GoEagle, I do like them quite a bit. I mean, they have puncture protection, they've got sidewall reflective stripes, and a little bit more of an aggressive tread. Now the bike does feel a little less nimble. I'm sure the big tires and just kind of this, you know, thicker frame for this style of bike doesn't help with that. But even, you know, off-roading like this, it feels pretty good. Go ahead and do another brake test here. Just nice, easy stopping. Now these brakes on here are mechanical, and as you guys know, I'm a fan of the hydraulic disc brakes. But because this bike isn't going that fast, really only getting 19.5, 20 miles per hour on here, I don't know if you really need to have the extra hydraulics. We're not going to be going on, you know, any crazy uphills or downhills, and you know, the top speed being at 20. The mechanical disc brakes are probably fine. Just gotta make sure you have those, you know, tuned up correctly. And that is going to do it for our review of the GoEagle from GoPowerBike. If you guys want to know more about them, I'll have a link down to their website below. And if you guys have any questions about any of the things that we covered, or there's something we didn't cover, please let me know down in the comments. I love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.